time to talk Jack Ryan, which is in which Ken stars and he also directs. So we're starting again with Jack. You might think that you've seen a Jack Ryan movie, and there've been many fine Jack Ryan movies. Tell us where we are at the beginning of this film. Then.
This is an origins film where we start in the here and now with our new Jack Ryan actor, Chris Pine, and we find him in London as a student at the London School of Economics, where Tom Clancy, in his 14 novels about this character, starts him off. We've never understood that before. And we're trying to put this character, who appeared in 4 previous films, in a 21st century setting and try and bring his sort of everyman character with a brilliant analytical mind into a modern problem, not the Cold War issues that the character was basically concerned with across those novels, but in this case, financial terrorism, threat of financial terrorism. And he is recruited to the CIA and to financial intelligence by Kevin Costner. So we put a new Jack Ryan in this new world threat. We don't have him married. He is engaged to Keira Knightley's character, Kathy, and he is unable to tell her about what he does. So we see man with secrets negotiating what he already feels to be a challenging thing to do, which is to join the CIA unquestioningly, an organization that he, in many senses, disapproves of. But the threat is real. His skill is rare. The chance to serve his country, he feels, is important. All of those things add into the mix, and it begins an adventure that goes from New York to Russia. And involves them.
I feel as I'm in a sales pitch because I'd buy this movie. Yes, okay. So Ken, you're on. So we're going to play a clip which has got you and Chris Pine in it. So you've explained, Chris. Explain your character.
Victor Sherevin is.
Can you explain your character in your accent?
No, because I have to. That have to go back through all the immersion techniques of Russification. Okay. But Victor Sherevin, let me get to it. Okay. Victor Sherevin is an oligarch, former soldier, former prisoner, would-be gangster, and a man with, although a partnership with an American company that seems to be harmonious, is under suspicion by Jack Ryan, who visits him in Moscow to claim that he is being corrupt.
Okay, so if we got the right bit, hopefully we have with that set up. Here's a clip from the new Jack Ryan movie with Chris Pine and Ken Branagh.
Victor Sherevin.
Jack Ryan.
How was your flight?
Fine, thank you.
And the jet lag? That first night can be brutal.
I survived.
What can I do for you?
Routine audit.
So routine it couldn't be done from New York?
Not when you're concealing accounts from us.
You Americans like to think of yourselves as direct, but I wonder if perhaps you are just rude.
You Russians think of yourselves as poets, but perhaps you're just touchy.
There's a clip playing and you're just talking, and then the microphone's come up and you're still talking.
Just checking.
I was listening to that clip and I enjoyed the banter with you and Chris Pine.
Thank you.
Even though Mark was redirecting the conversation to his trip to Russia. But that's a great Russia. It's not, like you said, this isn't a Cold War film. It is very different, and the financial stuff feels very different. But there are parts of it which feel as though it's a bit 1960s. Would that be fair?
I think it's fair, and it's what we tried to do by way of connecting what you might call the elements in the Jack Ryan novels that were made up of things that people liked. They liked Russia and America standing off. They liked the idea of this kind of Russian mastermind, and the idea, especially in the modern world where we have Mr. Putin, such a fascinating character, and we have a modern Russia that's still completely, at odds in many ways with America in various parts of the world, and now quite personally with Putin and Obama, it seems. That ancient enmity, old and new empires, and now they've changed around a bit, is something I think that people enjoy. There's something about the elements, the classic elements in this kind of picture. 2 guys on a bench in the dark, midnight in Moscow, sharing information about the fate of the world. One with a what he calls a quasi-personal dog to legitimize being out late at night. That kind of thing I wanted to do. People exchanging information in a cinema with envelopes being passed along in the back row. That kind of world, which for me, I began began seeing in things like Spy Who Came In From the Cold, later on in the early 70s, films like 3 Days of the Condor, where in this case, Jack Ryan and the sort of normality he seems to breathe is set against extraordinary events in which he is forced to play a part. And part of the fun is he seems a bit like us, but brainier, but is a sort of fish out of water in a way that it's quite easy to jump in there and share the journey with.
And in terms of the Victor character, who is, you heard him there, and you're relishing that chance. He's very, very sinister. You said, did you go out and meet people to sort of do research for that character? Because he's a dangerous oligarch.
Who's got the
figure.
gurgling stomach? Can I just say?
I'm certain it's me. That's why I'm talking over it. But thank you for bringing it up, Simon.
Digital radio listeners will have spotted that.
I think I gurgled then.
I think it was me. But thank you for boldly stepping into the.
You can have the other bit of chocolate if you want.
I feel like
would help.
that could be later in the afternoon. That might have done the gurgling,
Yes,
frankly.
that's true. It's my
That
fault.
plus
Thank
water. It's a minefield, this studio.
If I can drag us back to the question,
Thank
did
you
you
very
go
much.
and meet anybody?
We talked to various people, some more sort of out of the shadows than others, but we talked to former CIA operatives, and we, for whatever it was, I mean, it's true to say that in the CIA you can't tell your partner if you are not married that you're in the CIA. If you are married, you can indeed tell them. There's an element in the movie that looks at that kind of influence. We did shoot in Moscow, and we did meet some businessmen who seem to operate sometimes on the fringe of things, and who definitely had colourful past lives, which, if they're sort of an age with us, if I may say this, went through the Soviet era, and then with the wall coming down and glasnost and Russia being sort of redrawn, there was you had the sense of everybody in there fighting for a piece of the new Russia, and we met a few people who had fought successfully, and they were hanging on to it. Now, some of those people are very blurrily connected to government, it seems, and operate in an unusual space in the new political climate in Russia, and it makes for a very sort of alive and electric atmosphere in Moscow itself, where people in those positions who can buy the fancy number plates can use the lane in the middle of the street where they drive it. It seemed to me nothing less than 100 miles an hour, but it's a single lane and two-way traffic. So just to walk across the street in Russia was my experience. It was a terrifying thing to do, or indeed to film around. So it led to a feeling for the sort of the vitality that is the new Moscow. It's being remade, everything's being rebuilt, and there in the middle is this lowering, dominating city that is the Kremlin. But it's very electrifying kind of atmosphere, and it feels when you go there, this is the place to set a thriller.
Am I right in saying that sometimes it's Moscow and other times it's Liverpool?
It's true to say that, yes.
Is that because it was just slightly freer to be able to film in Liverpool?
Well, to be honest, the Liverpool did us proud by way of the flexibility with which they allowed us to use their streets late at night for dangerous car chases, which we did in the sort of rather more primitive manner, i.e. having real Chris Pine in a real car at night in a real place, whizzing round corners. And so we weren't always able to do that in Moscow, so sometimes we make a little magic movie join.
And so it's your movie, you're the director. You just explain a little bit about how the process works. So when you come on board to this movie, was Chris Pine attached, Keira Knightley, Kevin Costner, were they your ideas? Tell us how that works.
Chris Pine was already in place as Jack Ryan, and the movie had been in development for about 4 years with a number of writers. When I joined, David Koepp was the writer who was on board, a very brilliant writer who I enjoyed working with. I wanted to do it partly because of him, and then because of Chris Pine, who I thought was excellent casting for a new Jack Ryan. And then the studio, they asked me if I wanted to play Victor Sharavan, and I said, well, I need to develop a script first, and let's get our other characters. And so we did. We made Chris happy with what he was doing. Kevin Costner came on board, and we made some adjustments for him, personalising the role, and same with Keira Knightley. And then by that time, Sharavan was very well developed, and I thought I'd be very delighted to play this part. So I knew the actor was available, and gave him a ring, and it was an instant yes.
There's a listener question here. Mark Gardner sent this in. Does Ken the actor take direction well from Ken the director?
I try and be very honest with myself, but I am surrounded by excellent people. There's a fellow called Jimmy Yule, who's a wonderful actor in his own right, has worked with me a lot, and on this job was my acting coach, and his job was to observe and give me notes. When I did my first picture, We didn't have video assist and monitors, so you were always doing it based on instinct, a conversation with the other actors and the camera operator. And so after a particular take, you talk about, did we get it? How did it feel? And so I try and hold on to some of that, but also look to the outside influences, and they help me out.
And you're speaking real Russian.
I speak a little bit of real Russian indeed, yeah.
Can I just ask you something about on what grounds one judges success? Because interesting thing was when the film opened in America and did decent business and everything, there was a news story that said, well, a third of the audience is 50 and upwards. As if this was a bad thing. And there's I'm 50 and upwards. And actually one of the things I like very much about the film is that it has an old-fashioned charm in terms of it's not a Cold War thriller, but it is. Obviously there's a modern thing, it's financial, it's online. Chris Pine is, known to people as, Captain Kirk. But isn't it weird that you're operating in a market in which the idea of a third of the audience being 50 and up is seen as a problem?
It's weird, and also it's weird in the context of that audience paying for 25% of the entire market that is going to movies full stop. So you're very grateful to get the big crowd that's over 50. There's a concern to basically play to the demographic that goes most regularly, which is young males. And so sometimes movie studios don't see what's there, i.e. they don't see that kind of success, or they underestimate something like Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, where it suddenly does $135 million worldwide for a movie that for sure was aimed at, sounds like you've been lazy, it's aimed at the over 50s. Well, yes, sometimes there are stories that perhaps will appeal to that age group, who, by the way, speaking as one of them, are not dead, that actually maybe, and in fact go to the pictures, and but their viewing habits are different. They don't necessarily get out on that first weekend that those young males do.
Yeah. Ken Branagh is here till 3 o'clock talking about the new Jack Ryan. And it's Jack Ryan, : an awful lot of films have colons in. Have you noticed?
Yeah. Rise of the Colon, yes.
Yeah. Here's the gift for Ken. John Bainbridge, I'm 50 and up. I've never seen a Jack Ryan movie or read a Tom Clancy novel. Can I come to this new movie completely fresh, knowing nothing about the character or his history?
Yes, John, you can. You need know nothing except your own desire for a good night out of the pictures.
There you go.
Very good.
So it's Cinderella next?
Yes.
Or is Cinderella already done?
Cinderella, we finished shooting, but we're in the middle of editing, so that'll take quite a bit of this year, and it's exciting. I enjoyed making it enormously.
To tell us who's in it.
Cinderella's played by
Sell it to us, come on.
Lily James, wonderful young actress. You'll have seen her in Downton Abbey, and Richard Madden is playing the prince. You'll have seen him in Game of Thrones. They're both tremendous. Kate Blanchett is playing the wicked stepmother.
You'll have seen her in About to win the Oscar.
I believe she has strong prospects in that regard. Helena Bonham Carter's playing the fairy godmother. The brilliant Stellan Skarsgård also appears. Nonso Anozie, who, if you go see Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, appears as a character called M.B. Deng, will also be seen in Cinderella. We've got two brilliant young stepsisters called Sophie McShearer and Holiday Granger, who are both
I think they should get you to do the trailer like Alfred Hitchcock used to. They don't show you something. You just come on. You just go and you say, "Oh no!" And the person you would know from here, the wonderful actor from here, and then there.
And just in our final few seconds before the news comes up at 3, a lot of people asking about Wallander. You are the man that made Nordic Noir before it became this huge thing. What's the latest on that?
We will, at the end of this year, I hope, film 3 more films. 2 that are made up of the last Wallander novel, very dark novel called The Troubled Man, and 1 remaining novel that we haven't adapted called The White Lioness. And we hope to make them in Sweden and South Africa before the year's end.
Ken Branagh, always a pleasure to have you on the programme. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's Ken Branagh. Okay.
I know. He came to see us.
He did.